I've put 1,800 miles on my e-bike in just 6 months. That's about 10 miles per day on average, if you can believe that. Now I noticed that my rear tire tread was pretty much gone, and I didn't want to pay a bike shop $150 to $200 to replace that tire for me. Doing it myself cost me just $33, the cost of the tire. I'm going to show you how to replace the rear tire, which is the more complicated of the two since you've got all kinds of stuff back there, like the derailleur, the motor, wires, and fender mounts. Getting the bike upside down so you can get the wheels off can be a little tricky. I found the easiest way is to apply the rear brake and then pull up on the handlebars to do a reverse cartwheel. I made a couple of handlebar stands using leftover 2x4 pieces to keep the handlebar electronics off the ground. You should be able to detach the wire to the e-bike motor somewhere close to the rear hub. My wire separates here. Let's start by removing any zip ties or twist ties that secure that wire to the frame between the connection point and the motor. Then unscrew the collar at the connection point so the wire dangles free and is unsecured when you remove the wheel. There should be a large nut and washer on both sides of the wheel. Go ahead and remove those at this time. Now, on my bike there is a bracket securing the axle to the frame. I'll call this the axle bracket. This will need to be removed so the axle can slide out of the bike frame. Now, once the axle brackets are detached, you should be able to lift the wheel out of the bike frame since there's nothing securing the wheel to the frame any longer. Except, in my case, there was something stuck. The wheel seemed to be secured in place and would not budge. What I observed is that the rear axle is not actually completely round. It has two flat sides. And over time the axle had rotated just a bit so it was jammed into the mount at such an angle that the axle could not slide out of the frame. The solution was simply to use a good set of pliers to rotate the axle so the flat sides aligned with the mounting bracket on the bike, and what do you know, the wheel popped right out. Alright, let's get the new tire put on. First thing, deflate the inner tube completely. Traditional tire levers weren't going to work on this wheel because, well, there are no spokes to secure them, and it is a fat tire after all. So I used a large flat screwdriver to gently but firmly work my way around about 1/4 of the tire to unsecure it from the rim, being careful not to puncture the inner tube. Then, using a plastic tire lever, you can pretty easily get the rest of the tire freed from the rim. Note that I'm using plastic for this so as not to damage the inner tube. My inner tube is in good shape, having never been punctured, so I'm reusing it. I carefully removed the inner tube from the wheel. Look how easy it is to remove the old tire from the rim. Now, before putting on the new tire, it's a good time to spiffy up the rim using some Armor All. Now it's time to put on the beautiful new tire. I got this particular tire on sale for $33 and it's a decent mid-grade tire. I've seen more expensive tires as high as $50, and I've seen bike shops upcharging as high as $80 depending on the type of tire you're getting. Now most tires these days have a rotation indicator, so please pay attention to the markings on your new tire. The rotation arrow indicates forward direction when the wheel is rotating, so be sure to double check you're mounting the tire with the correct alignment, which facilitates good traction and water management. So now everything just goes in reverse. First, mount one side of the tire to the frame. Insert the inner tube back into the rim, starting with the inflation stem poking through its hole in the rim, and then gently working your way around. Then press the remaining side of the tire so it's seated inside the rim. Depending on the tire and the rim, you might need to use a tire lever to get the entire tire inside the rim. But for this particular combo, it seemed to just want to seat itself. Inflate to recommended pressure and check to make sure the tire is staying seated inside the rim. We're in the home stretch now. Replace the wheel into the bike frame. Then, replace the axle brackets on both sides. Now, on my particular bike, the rear bolt securing the axle bracket is longer because it also serves as a mount for the fender. The large nut holding the axle in place also holds the derailleur guard, so replace these in order: the derailleur guard, then the washer, then the nut. Secure firmly. Repeat on the other side of the axle, firmly securing the nut. Then, give your wheel a good spin. In my case, the wheel realigned perfectly between the brake pads, so there was no need to readjust the brakes. However, that might not always be true, and you might need a slight brake realignment. There are a lot of videos out there showing how to do that, so I'm not going to do that here. Final step before test riding: reattach the power cable and secure it to the frame with zip ties or twist ties. Okay, we should be ready to go. To turn the bike right side up, lift the handlebars off the stands while holding the rear brake firmly. Do a front cartwheel and then you should be set for a test ride. So here's a tire's eye view of my test ride. I got the e-bike up to full speed and was very pleased with how this project turned out. This successful project took me about an hour and was time well spent. And keep in mind, this video is also usable for any of you out there also wanting to replace your front tire, which is way less complicated than the rear. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful. Hope it saved you some money. And if it did, hey, subscribe to my channel. There will be more useful content coming out soon. Bye-bye.